This is the disturbing truth about the Krabby Patty formula.
Everybody wants to know what the Krabby Patty secret formula is.
For years, people have wondered,
where exactly does the meat come from?
But it turns out
that its founder, owner, manager, and CEO, Mr. Krabs,
actually has kept the secret formula a secret
for a good reason. That is because it's made of crabs.
So Mr. Krabs is literally a cannibal. He built his entire life eating his brothers and sisters.
And if you notice, Mr. Krabs is the only crab around besides his mom. And if you look at the menu, it's shockingly accurate.
So next time you're watching SpongeBob
and somebody is eating a Krabby Patty, just remember this video.
This is the disturbing lost episode of The Simpsons.
The episode started off with the characters acting a little bit weird.
Homer seemed very angry.
Marge was depressed. Lisa seemed anxious. Bart seemed to have genuine anger and hatred for his parents.
The episode then continued, and the family was going on a plane trip.
When the plane was taking off,
Bart was just fooling around.
He then broke the window on the plane, and he was sucked out.
The camera then zoomed in very slowly on Bart's dead, mangled body.
The episode then cut to Homer, Marge, and Lisa crying hysterically.
And behind their crying, you can hear scary demonic whispering and laughter.
The episode then cut to them again, sitting at the same table.
But this time, everybody looked different.
They all were super skinny and it looked like they lost a bunch of weight.
Also, you could see creepy faces jumping in and out of the window behind them.
The final scene of the episode was them visiting Bart's grave.
But around his grave were the graves of every guest star that ever appeared on The Simpsons.
And each of them had death dates and were all true.
This is the disturbing lost episode of Tom and Jerry.
The episode was called Tom's Basement.
The episode opened up with Tom in a typical Tom and Jerry house.
Tom's owner seemed very angry. In his first scene, he is stomping on Tom's tail
in a very realistic and painful way because Tom was sleeping in front of the basement door.
The owner then yells at Tom to never go down there. Tom is seen to be very terrified and runs away. Jerry then tricks Tom into chasing him to the basement door a few times,
and each time the owner caught him and beat him.
But the final time the owner caught Tom, the camera zooms in on Tom's face while he is getting beaten, and you can hear the owner screaming curse words and very hurtful things at him. Jerry then feels bad for Tom and gets a knife and stabs the owner to death.
Tom and Jerry then carry the owner's body down into the basement.
Jerry then gets the knife again and stabs Tom to death, leaving his body in the basement with the owner.
And the episode ends with Jerry
putting a for sale sign in the front yard of the house while laughing.
This is a scary story about the mother.
There was a girl named Jill who always hung out with her mother.
But she noticed her dad never hung out with them, nor did he even look at her mom or talk to her.
This confused Jill,
but she never asked him about it because she thought it wasn't any of her business.
One day, Jill was playing with her mom in her room
when her dad came in and said that dinner was ready.
But he only looked at Jill and not his wife. When Jill came down to the table to eat, he finally got the courage
to ask her dad why he doesn't talk to mom anymore.
Her dad then looked at her with a weird expression on his face and looked very scared.
Then said, "What do you mean?"
Jill then said, "Whenever I'm with mommy and you come in the room, you never say anything to her."
Her dad's face grew pale and he said, "Honey, your mom has been dead for your whole life.
She died in the hospital giving birth to you."
This is why you should always get new shoes.
There was a kid named Tyler who had a pair of shoes that he loved.
He had them for 4 years and refused to get a new pair of shoes,
even after his parents offered to buy them.
Tyler wore the shoes everywhere he went, and he never had a problem with them.
One day, Tyler went to the mall with his friends
when suddenly he felt a sharp pain in both of his feet. He tried to ignore it, but it just kept getting worse.
Tyler then fell to the floor and he couldn't walk.
His friends then called an ambulance.
Tyler was then rushed to the hospital.
When the doctor came in to talk to Tyler,
he said, "I have some really bad news.
Your shoes are so old and dirty
that spiders laid eggs in both of your shoes and bit you over 30 times in each foot."
Tyler couldn't believe it.
The doctor then said, "We are going to need to cut off both of your feet
so the infection does not spread to your whole body."
Tyler froze in horror. He knew he had no choice.
After the surgery was finished,
Tyler wished he listened to his parents and got new shoes.
This is the scary story about the bath.
There was a girl named Christy who just got home from soccer practice one night. She was super tired and just wanted to relax. So she decided to take a nice hot bath. She ran the water and waited for it to fill up. Then Christy sat down in the tub. She was playing on her phone the whole time and it was about to die. So she called for her mom to bring her a charger. Her mom then came in with a charger and left. But right when she closed the door, Christy began screaming. Her mom then opened the door and saw Christy shaking uncontrollably and smoke all around her. She tried to help her, but it was too late. Christy dropped her phone in the bathtub while it was on the charger and got electrocuted to death. These are the craziest things that happened in 2020, part 1. Have you ever heard of a massive star just disappearing?
For nearly 2 decades,
astronomers studied a star in a galaxy 75 million light years away.
Then one day when they went to go observe it,
it just completely disappeared.
It could be the first instance of a star collapsing into a black hole
without first exploding into a supernova. These are the murder hornets. They took the whole country by storm earlier this year,
and everybody in the United States was terrified.
They say if you get stung by one of these, it is extremely painful and sometimes can cause death. A couple months ago, the FBI released 3 short videos of a UFO flying in the sky.
They say that the object was not made on this planet
and was definitely another thing that came to visit us. This is very scary and interesting.
This is the scary game to play in real life called the Black Mirror.
Black Mirror is a scary ritual that allows you to contact the spirits of the dead. To play the game, all you need is a mirror, a dark, empty room, and a light bulb or a candle.
To start the game, you have to go to the dark, empty room and place the mirror up on the wall.
Angle it so there is nothing reflecting but darkness. Next, light a candle or turn on your light bulb.
And sit in the middle of the dark room and make yourself comfortable.
Relax and gaze deeply into the mirror. Think of the dead person that you want to see.
Don't think of anything else.
Just clear your mind and concentrate on the person you are trying to contact and that person only. The spirit of the dead will appear to you.
Just be patient.
And when it does, you can ask it any question you want.
This is why you should never go into your basement alone at night.
One night, a girl named Kayla was in her living room watching TV.
She then went to her kitchen to get a snack. She then walked by her basement door
and saw that a light was on down there. She then walked down the stairs thinking nothing of it.
When Kayla got down there, she turned off the light and started walking back up the stairs.
Then suddenly she heard a noise.
She thought she was hearing things,
but as she stood there and listened, she heard the noise again.
It sounded like somebody whispering.
Kayla then freaked out and started running up the stairs,
when suddenly somebody grabbed her ankle
and tried pulling her back down the stairs.
Kayla then kicked the person in the head and got out of the grip.
She then shut the door and locked it and then called the police.
When the police arrived,
they searched the basement and found nothing
except for a note that said,
"You got lucky, I'll be back."
This is the scary urban legend about La Mala Aura.
La Mala Aura is an evil demon that wanders on lonely country roads after midnight and terrorizes anybody that she sees.
La Mala Aura can change size rapidly, growing larger or smaller.
And she is very versatile and can teleport.
Anybody who lays eyes on La Mala Aura
will be driven insane. She will either hypnotize you or paralyze you.
And when she attacks, she rushes at you at very fast speeds,
then envelopes you and suffocates you. She can also transform into a wicked woman wearing black clothing,
and her hair is black and very messy.
And it is said,
if you see La Mala Aura in her human form,
then it means somebody you know will die, or even worse, you will die.
This is why you should always check under your bed.
There was a young boy named Josh who was hanging out with his friends.
It was getting late and Josh had to go home.
He then left his friend's house and started to walk home.
When he got to his house, his mom and dad were both asleep,
and he just went straight to his room. Josh then laid on his bed and played on his phone.
Suddenly, Josh heard a faint noise. He ignored it and assumed it was his phone.
But a couple minutes later, he heard it again and it sounded like it was coming from underneath his bed.
Josh then got down on his hands and knees and looked under.
He then froze in horror as he saw a man with a knife staring right back at him. The next morning when his parents got up, they went straight to Josh's room to check on him.
And when they opened the door, they saw a terrible sight.
Josh laid on the ground dead in a pool of blood with a bloody knife right next to his body.
This is Megan is Missing Explained.
This is about a girl named Megan Stewart's disappearance.
Megan is introduced to a guy named Josh who says he is a 17-year-old skateboarder.
They try and talk over the computer, but Josh says his little brother broke his webcam and he cannot show his face. Megan's friend Amy feels left out, so Megan brought her to meet Josh with her.
And a couple days later, Megan is missing.
Amy then starts a search to locate her best friend
and even talks online with Josh.
After Amy talks with Josh, she feels terrified because of Josh's threatening remarks and she then reports him to the police.
Then 3 weeks later, Amy is missing.
Amy is now in a basement, handcuffed and chained to a wall. Then Josh comes into the room and rapes her and makes her eat food out of a dog's bowl. He then tells Amy to get into a barrel, and inside the barrel is Megan's rotten dead body. He then pushes Amy into the barrel with Megan's dead body, and you can hear Amy scream for her life. Then Josh throws the barrel into a hole and buries Amy alive. This is the disturbing lost episode of Mickey Mouse. The episode started off with Mickey Mouse walking down a street when he walked up to a man and ripped out his eyeballs and then just continued walking. Mickey held the eyes in his hands, and another man came up to him and said, "Why do you have eyes in your hands?" Mickey then laughed and tried to kill the man. He grabbed a gun and knives and threw the knives at the man's body and shot him in the head and hands. Unable to move, the man started to speak gibberish, and Mickey told him to shut up, but it was no use. His gibberish continued. The man had real blood coming from his face, body, and hands. The camera then zoomed in on Mickey Mouse, and he said, "Go and die, you stupid idiot." Mickey then started walking down the street with a very creepy smile on his face and whistling an unidentified song. The episode then ends and the credits start to run, but they're not normal credits, they're very scary ones. You could hear very creepy whispering, and the characters they showed looked starved and tortured.